good evening and welcome. I am Maria, also known as Brown Girl Interrupting, and this is Pain to Power, Leading with Love. I'm so glad to have you all here with me tonight or watching the rebroadcast with me. And tonight we have a very special guest talking about his story of pain to power. But before I get to introducing him and bringing him to the stage, I wanted to share some thoughts on vulnerability with you. A few years ago, I read the book by Brene Brown, The Power of Vulnerability, and it really changed the way that I understand vulnerability. So I got this quote, but I want to talk to you a little bit about it, which is, in our culture, we associate vulnerability with emotions we want to avoid, such as fear, shame, and uncertainty. Yet we too often lose sight of the fact that vulnerability is also the birthplace of joy, belonging, creativity, authenticity, and love. And that's from Brene Brown. So the reason I bring this up is because I was actually recently, just yesterday, in a conversation with one of my older boys, and the conversation of vulnerability came up, and he was so anti showing vulnerability. And it made me think about this idea that society has trained us to think that vulnerability is weakness, and that to share our stories, to tell people that we really have emotions or experiences, is something that shows that we're not strong, when in fact vulnerability is actually one of the strongest things that we can show. It took a lot of comfort with my 21-year-old to get him to see that, but by the end, I think he understood that it's not about being overly emotional. I wouldn't be able to handle that even myself. It's about having an understanding, knowing your emotions, and being able to tap into them to help you to grow and to help model that it's okay to not be perfect. It's okay to make mistakes, and it's okay to be willing to grow. So when we lead with love, we lead with vulnerability and recognizing its role in our strength. Welcome and salute to Tennessee. What up, panel? And salute to the chat. Salute to the chat and all of our Ranchers family showing up. We are very excited for everyone to be here, to be joining us. And now I am excited to introduce to you our guest, Nathan McCoy, who is a proud brother of Iota Phi Theta, an emergency management specialist with FEMA, and the president of the nonprofit organization Silence Kills. Yes. Welcome. It's really great to see you and have you here with us today.
Thanks for having me. This is a rarity for me to grant interviews, so consider yourself lucky.
I consider myself very lucky, and actually that's a great place to start, because I know it is rare, and actually, in fact, you volunteered your services, which is great, which I really appreciate. But I guess so. My question for you is, what made you want to come on the show?
Well, after seeing your show a couple times and seeing my own Madam CEO, Shahari Johnson, do your show, and then, like I said, I've watched a couple of your shows, then actually having to get to meet you in person, and then even being on an IG Live of yours one time, I figured, you know what, I scoped out enough. She passed the test with me. I think I can do her show once in a while. I said I'll try it this time. If it goes well enough, I'll come back again, and another, and another, and another. But I said, all right, I'll give her a try. I'll give it a shot.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate that I passed all the tests, and I made it through, and you're with us tonight, which is awesome. And so the show is called Pain to Power, and so we're gonna kind of like find out the story of Nate and your experiences and just what that all means to you. So I'm gonna start off by just asking you, when you think about that idea of pain to power, what does it mean to you?
At base level, I probably define it as falling down, then getting back up, and coming back better than what you was before. Because now that you fell down, you already know what not to do, so you can stay up. It's all about, making adjustments, which is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, well, I want to know more about that for sure. So falling down, but not staying down. So it's the resiliency to make the adjustments to keep going, which isn't always easy. So I want to know a little bit more about your story itself in that, like how, just thinking back to your own upbringing and your childhood, have you had moments where you fall down, where it was hard to get up, and what some of those experiences were like?
From my upbringing, I'll be honest, I would say half my fault, other half through other people's actions, which I can't take responsibility for because they made the decision. It can range from not doing well in school to getting beat up by relatives because I wasn't doing so well in school to being robbed at gunpoint more than once, being bullied, being the person that would beat up his relatives because I guess in hindsight I was trying to make sense of what was happening to me, and I figured, if it can happen to me, let me exert that on, someone else to make myself feel better. I think at one point I almost got even expelled from elementary school at second grade. Like, who gets expelled from elementary school at second grade? 7 years old. You know.
But it sounds like there was an impact on the things you were experiencing, so you had reaction to those things, right?
Yeah. I was too afraid to, handle the people that would, punk me out and bully me around. But I had no problem picking on someone else who was just as docile and even more innocent than I guess I would. Make sense of it all.
So let's go back a little bit, because again, the show really is about kind of like unpacking things for everybody, right? So when you think about those school experiences, can you tell me more just about what school was like for you when it came to relationships? You mentioned bullying, you mentioned not being treated well. Do you want to say anything more about that?
I mean, pretty much elementary, middle, and high school, it was kind of some form of bullying going on. It probably really didn't stop till junior year of high school, honestly. That's when I guess made a turn. But at the same time, I kind of degraded myself a little bit to make that turn. I was doing everything else that the other kids was doing in private. That was the difference between me. I made sure whatever I did, anything I stole, any crime I committed, I made sure it was done under wraps, that not even my parents know to this day that I've done anything outside of, common stuff. But essentially, it was also not good because at the same time, I was doing the thing that we constantly do, trying to fit in, which really gets you nowhere. Like, you got to be that much of a loser or that much of a person that can't think of your own to try to fit into what someone else is doing, because, whatever consequences or lack of consequences they're facing is different than what I'm going to face because my life ain't their life. So it was, I paid the price a lot, whether it was through my own doing or whether it was through someone else's actions. It was quite a bit of a price I had to pay. Even when I got to my 20s, when my life started to turn around a little bit, there was still some isolated incidents that knocked me down a peg or two, to where even now at 31, I'm still, guess I could say, recovering from it or trying to work through it, essentially just by myself. Because, even I know people that have gone through more than what I've gone through. Case in point, my CEO Shaharia, and they're still here and they're stronger than I'll ever be. I'll give her that all day long. It's people out here way tougher and going through way more severe things than what I am. So, if they can make it, so can I.
So it sounds like, though, that there's that there's motivation from seeing others, but I think it's important to always give ourselves grace, though, too, right? Like, so everything you experience, when you experience those, you just said, right, up until middle school, that's a kid, right? Kids experiencing things are kids experiencing things, and from there, though, you've obviously found your power, found your voice, and been leading with love in so many ways. I know you mentioned the idea of fitting in, right? That's one thing that and I'm hoping that there are a lot of people, and I see some chat comments here. Kennedy Williams says, if you have to, I missed it. If you have to fit in, you're losing. But at the same time, and Tyron Jenkins says, happens to us all, right? And the thing is that you can't be like upset at people for wanting to fit in, because it's just what kind of like society wants us to do, right? Just like I said at the beginning, the idea of vulnerability being a weakness, right? Like there's all these messages that we have, and it's easy to get caught up in those messages.
Well, that's what society says. I tend to try to stay away or stray away from what society wants, because what society wants and what I want are two different things. You know, I'm at the point now, and like I said, my CEO can tell you, anyone else that knows me in business, the attorney, or anyone knows that, no one tells me what to do. I'm my own boss. I do what I want to do. Logic knows I march to the beat of my own drum. It takes a lot to get to that, but also you also got to know where your power lies. You also got to know what your strengths are and how to maximize your strengths. Once I figured out what I'm really good at, that I'm a silent enforcer, or as I like to say, like I said at the Silent Skills Conference, I'm the bully's bully. Now I bully the bully. You're not about. No one's going to ever take advantage of me ever again. But I had to work hard to get to that point, get to that place, get to that belief, and that state of mind.
So can you talk more about that idea of like how you found that power? Because that's big, right?
I just started to well, on the physical side, I just started training. I'm a big lover of boxing and combat sports. I just started doing privately my own little secret training, get myself in somewhat of a decent shape. Decent, not great, but decent, and just doing more, taking my education more seriously. Not my school, not college, but my education, because my education is far more different than schooling. Schooling's only for a certain period of time, but your education is infinite. It's never ending. So I just, started sharpening my mind more. Once I started doing those two things, once I started interacting with people more, and I'm in a career now where I have no choice but to interact with people and keep my composure, that made me stronger everywhere. Because it's like, experiencing that from other people and hearing other people's stories from when a disaster strikes, that opened me up to realize, anyone, all people just want is for someone to listen to them, no matter what. Give them some kind of form of attention, and if give them that, but also let them know that there's a limit to it. Everything's gonna be fine. I guess in hindsight, what I'm saying is I've more so just stood firm when it came to me and myself. I'm the most generous person in the world, but even I have limits.
Well, we all do, and we all have to. We have to have boundaries. That's being taking care of ourselves too, right? Like you can't take everything. That's not fair. Um, and it sounds like though you did the physical to get stronger, but you also did some mental work there, right? Like, is there anything else? Like, how did you like mentally? How did you put yourself in a different mind space? You talked about education and wanting to just keep feeding your mind. And I think you also talked about a little bit community. Are there other things that for you helped you to shift that mindset so that you didn't feel like, and I think you talked about this language, right? You're not a victim, but you're a survivor, right? Like where nobody's a victim, they're surviving through something, and finding their power in it. So can you talk more about that, of how did you shift that thinking?
Well, truth be told, and if she's watching, she's probably going to have a big smile on her face. But when I met Shaharia, that's actually when everything clicked, because for something horrific like that to happen to her and for her to be where she is now, it made me have no choice but to, I got to raise my game too. Let me see if I can at least be a fraction of what this person is and see what happens with my life and see where it takes me. And lo and behold, we just had a whole conference and we're actually doing a lot of big things for the community. So, I had to instead of being like Mike, I had to be like Shari.
And Shahari is an inspiration. She is one of our guests that was on the show in May. If anybody wants to go back and watch that show, which is definitely amazing. And that particular conference, do you want to talk a little bit more about that, since we just saw the clip? Can you tell us a little bit more about what was happening from Silent Skills during that event?
Oh, it was pretty much a conference. Guess I can say a smorgasbord. We had spoken word artists, singers perform. We had panel discussions. Me and my vice president, Portia Bass, even did our own interviews for Logic for the documentary we're filming. It was a huge experience. First big conference. I guess I can reveal we're actually looking to do the sequel or the part two coming soon. It was awesome. I was a little, I guess I could say if I had to make some cliff notes on things that I would improve, I'd probably like to see a little bit more, male presence there outside of the producers and myself. Because Shahari would tell you, there's been many places we went to all over the city, every single quadrant, even Maryland and Virginia, where most times I'm the only guy, black male that is, that's at most of these events. And I would definitely hope to see that change in the future.
Yeah, that's really important because it sounds like, again, your story is not, and we can see in the chat, right, that that's not uncommon that men are going through pain and men are figuring themselves out. So Tyron Jenkins, welcome. Tyron says, finding your voice is a big factor. Understanding what to do with it is key. That's really important, Tyron. It sounds like that what you found was what to do with it through Shaharia. But let's backtrack a little bit more.
So
And
that's a full psychology major you're talking to, by the way, Tyron Jenkins. So he's a doctor. He knows what he's talking about.
I love it. Well, welcome, Tyrone, and your knowledge. We're excited to have you in the chat here. And just as for those of you joining us from the Ranters family, we welcome you from any viewers, our fans, members, and family members of Nate's and mine. And welcome. I am having an intimate conversation and getting to know the story of pain to power for Nate McCoy, our guest today, who is a proud brother of Iota Phi Theta and an emergency management specialist with FEMA. And he's also the president of the nonprofit organization Silence Kills, which we just saw some of the clips from one of the conferences that was recently held in May during Mental Health Awareness Month. So let's backtrack a little bit more, because I want to go into, you talked about education, but it sounds like obviously that was something that kind of guided you a little bit. Tell me more about your experiences of how that empowered you, your education, your learning, what you did with that. Where did that fit into your story?
Well, it fit in for me because I'm someone that really derives his power from helping others and service to others. It may sound toxic, but it's always been for me, definitely how I was raised to not be selfish. It's always, your family or the people first, or God first, and then yourself. Because once you do that, show your servitude and service to others, everything else will fall in place for myself, which to a degree I can kind of say I still kind of believe. But as I've gotten older, I'm no dummy. I need things. I need tangible things. I got to have resources. I got to be in a position myself to help others, because if I can't help myself, I can't help others. Just today, I actually had to work 2 miracles for 2 different people to help them because they were struggling with their finances. But even still, if I had it, I had enough, luckily, left over to where I could help them without damaging myself too much, and we were able to agree that you will pay me back this date, you'll pay me back this other date. So it helped me a lot to know that how can I put this? It helped me more relate to people, because the more I got out in the world, the more well read I became, the more I could have conversations with people about what's going on with them, why is it happening to them, and what can be done to somewhat help them. It just did a lot. It's hard to explain. There's only but so many words can use to explain it. It's more so, a person would have to see me in action in order to really, see what I'm talking about. Tyron Jenkins is probably one of those people on earth that seen me in all my glory when it comes to people or any kind of professional work experience. And it's tough, but I get the job done. Why? Because I can relate to people, and the people can relate to me.
I think that's a really great way of kind of, it connects back to the quote, right? The idea of vulnerability being a sense of joy and creativity and connection, right? Like, and that's what it is, right? By you sharing your openness to hear other people, to talk to others, to help others, you're creating this space of joy for others and healing, which is a beautiful thing. I want to step back a little bit, because you said something that kind of like struck me, and I want to know more about where that thought came from. You said that helping others, you said, even though it's toxic. Tell me more about why that might be toxic to some people, or that like you perceive that as a possibly toxic thing.
Well, I know my missus can't stand it. because she's more so about, what are people pouring into me or what are they doing for me? And she always wants to know what is it that I want and what I like. And I'm brutally honest every time about I am doing what I like. Helping the people is what I like to do. Making sure you're good and making sure your needs are met is makes me feel good. My needs are met when your needs are met. I don't know if she doesn't believe it or not per se, you know, but it's true. What I say is true. I've always being in service to others is my thing. It's what I like to do. I'm probably gonna die that way, most likely. I, it's I've never even celebrated my birthday. I will go all out and make sure everyone gets whatever they want for their birthday. But when it comes to me, I'm like, I don't need anything. I'm good. Just waking up and seeing is good enough for me. I don't, I don't need stuff. I've been homeless at 25, sleeping in a hotel lobby, homeless. I, I don't need anything. I have no problem not having much because I prefer to save and to, like I said, save up anything I have just in case of a rainy day or of an emergency or something. Just just a couple months ago, at the beginning of the year, I took my first vacation as an adult. Well, period, really, my first vacation. And I told myself after that, I'm like, all right, no more till after retirement. Because I have other stuff that I really want to do and check off first before I do anything crazy. I'm like, I'm not going to go out the country. I'm not doing anything like that until I've done everything I've needed to do, professionally.
So it sounds like she wants you to take care of you, though, right? She wants you to give
And
to
I do.
yourself too, right? And it's and if
I
as
do.
long as you're able to. So what are the other things though that bring you joy? So you said doing for others, but what does bring you joy outside of that?
Joy for me is probably maybe a great Saturday evening and I'm watching cartoons on the Netflix or whatever you call it. That's me right there.
All
Or,
right. Is it funny cartoon? So your laughter?
oh yeah, just today I kind of binge watched the Flintstones because
Oh my god.
that's when I realized I'm like, this show is not supposed to be for kids. This is an adult cartoon. That's when the realization hit me. I'm like, it's an adult cartoon.
I think there's a lot of realizations like that for
Yes, it is.
us, right?
I
Like
consider what I call it now. I think I'm gonna call it a clean version of Family Guy. I'm like that's what that is, a clean version of Family Guy almost.
I don't know how you censor Family Guy enough to make it a clean version. So that is interesting. No, but so laughter is good. That's important, right? And and so let's come back to your fraternity though, because it is a really big part of who you are. And it sounds like it was something that also kind of gave you some power when you got to school. And tell me about like when you started being a part of your fraternity, what it was like, what it gave to you, that maybe was something, was it new, something that you discovered through being with this, with your brothers?
Definitely new because prior to I didn't know jack squat about fraternities, sororities, anything like that. I don't know. I don't know what you couldn't tell me. If you had given me a test on, I wouldn't know what to tell you because I didn't know nothing about it. Um, so I think when I was in the hotel lobby, when I was, didn't have nowhere to lay my head at, most of the people that were on the campus at the time that were part of IOTA, they were the ones that actually reached out to me and was checking in on me because I had a friend of mine named Andre Smith. We went to class together. He just became a member, and so I asked him, what is what's that you wearing on your shirt right there? And he told me what it was, and so I guess I could say the rest is history. I started going to their events more. They actually encouraged me to check out all the other organizations so I can at least learn about them because before you make a decision, you need to know who everyone else is.
Mm.
I probably say the one thing that drew me to them the most was the fact that they were the least popular and they had the least amount of people around them at events. And I call it like a double date situation. Like I had friends and stuff that was trying to push me to go into this other fraternity, but then I kept seeing them, and I'm just like, yo, who is that? Like, I know I'm set up on this date with someone else, but I don't know. I like your date a little bit more. It was one of those, like, And they, everyone tried to convince me, nah, they're homely. You don't want that. You need somebody with that. I'm like, I don't know. Them homely ones be the ones right there. Let me see what's going on with that over there. And I couldn't leave it alone after that one time. Just kept interacting more and more and more with them. And fall 2016, November 9th, 2016 was official. At 26 years old, which is considerably late to do something like that, but even be in school. But my campus, UDC, the home of the Firebirds, shout out to UDC. We the oldest average age at UDC or in Washington DC as far as colleges go. Average age is 26, 27 years, so we tend to get a lot of older students. So pretty common, but uncommon for everyone else. I would say after that, everything really took off like a rocket. That's when the traveling started, going city to city for conferences. That's when, you were 26, learning how to tie a tie, how to shop for dress clothes, how to really do everything that my actual older two brothers never did because we never had much of a relationship anyway. Mainly because of the age gap. Those two were born about 5 years, 6 years apart, and I was the unexpected one out of the nowhere that came out of nowhere. So, yeah.
So it sounds like they gave you kind of the brotherhood, the manhood, right? Like in growing so much, and it's never too late, right? I think that's the beautiful thing about healing and evolution is it's never too late to find what speaks to you. And it's a beautiful thing to find something that speaks to you with community, which is really cool. I know we had some comments on the chat. I want to make sure we get to some of our thoughts here. Kennedy says, I got a brother that's Q Dog. He went through hell. He asked me, was I joining? I was like, hell no, LOL. Did you see how that last MS broke down and quit? LOL. It's not for the weak. It's not for the weak or weary to be a part of this thing.
I know nothing about Q, nor do I care to know. I only focus on the brown and gold right here. That's it. And I actually just got named chapter advisor for the EDC's chapter, so I'll be doing a lot more work for that. I guess I'm essentially now the old man now. I'm the old wise one. So, yeah, I'll have a lot of young lives to shape and mold come fall.
Continuing to do service in another way, right? You're just extending that ability to help others, which is a beautiful thing. So I definitely want to, and Tyrone's thought, thank you and congratulations from Tyrone, which is awesome. And congratulations. And so I want to hear a little bit more about some of the work that you're doing right now with Leading with Love and also your work in FEMA. But before we do, we're going to take a quick commercial break because as I think I've told you, and I think you know, in addition to my podcast, I'm a writer. And I have a blog, and I recently wrote a post called Shattered, and have actually video to supplement the post because literally what I wrote about then happened, and, as my life sometimes goes, and just listen a little bit more to my story of pain to power and what has brought me to this. Hi, my name is Maria. But you are soon going to know me as Brown Girl Interrupting. And what I mean by that is that very soon, hopefully, you're going to be following my blog. I am a writer, and I started writing because I was married, I had children, and then my life changed when I separated, and I did a lot of learning and reflecting and growing in that process of change because change always leads us to that. And I've decided to share that with the rest of the world because sometimes hearing that someone else is going through the same thing as you or understanding and putting words to the feelings and experiences we're having helps us to heal from them or grow from them or learn from them. And so that's what my blog is. It's writing about life, healing, relationships, parenting, dating, marriage, pain, love, mistakes, growth, and coming out whole still in all of it. as a human, flawed, but always open to new things. So that's my life, that's my journey, and it's written in this blog. But my hope is that you are going to go to www.browngirlinterrupting.com and join and subscribe to the blog and read all about my story to help you maybe gain some perspective on yours. So please go and check out the blog. The link is the website at the top, www.browngirlinterrupting.com. You will see all of my things. Follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I vlog my life story. I don't know, Nate, if you followed some of my stories recently of just my adventures in life. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're serious, sometimes they're reflective. And vulnerability is something. Thank you, Tyron. Very nice. Appreciate that. And honestly, for me, a lot of it is it all boils down to vulnerability. So I want to talk about that a little bit before we get into your work with Shaharya. At the beginning of the show, I talked about vulnerability. And one of the reasons that I bring it up is because, as you can see in the chat, a lot of the chat is filled with a lot of men. And a lot of our viewers are men, and I have had many men on the show. But one of the things that I've always tried to elevate is the openness of sharing stories and being vulnerable, because that's important. But I think as a man, that's not always seen the same way. So I kind of shared what my son's reaction was. I'm curious to know for you, when you think of the idea of vulnerability, what does it mean to you, and how does it play out in your own life?
I would say for me, if I had to define vulnerability, I'd probably define it as, just being open, letting the guard down to someone you can trust. Plain and simple. And to the second question?
Just how is it, like, how has vulnerability come into your life?
Through meeting the missus. She was very big on being vulnerable, and she's always telling me what's going on with her and being vulnerable about things. And she would always push the edict that I need to be vulnerable with her. So I would say every now and then it pops up. I know for the most part, though, I'm still someone that, who instead of tries to be vulnerable as much as possible, which doesn't work out. I'm also try to find solutions as quick as possible. But then again, sometimes I guess it's best just to let's let it fly. See where it takes you. Let that vulnerability take course, and you never know. I might get an answer or a better solution then, even after I've done that. I would say for the most part, my vulnerable moments come when I'm actually to myself and I have the quiet and the space to be by myself, because for the most part, I never do get alone time, because I always have to either be around people, take care of people, go see people, or, wear a headset being stuck on a computer for 14 hours a day. So I rarely have time to myself, but when I do take it, which is mostly Sundays, Monday through Saturday, fine, whatever. But Sunday, that's usually the day where I don't bother me. My phone's off. Unless you have an emergency, which 2 people did. Luckily, they caught me when I was on the phone. So other than that, me time.
Or you're gracing me with your presence on my show. So Sunday, you gave me a Sunday time, which I appreciate, especially since it is important. But you brought up something really important. I think that when we talk about vulnerability, when I was just saying it, like, I was thinking vulnerability with others, but you mentioned being vulnerable with ourselves. And that's kind of a starting point. Was that always easy for you to be vulnerable and honest with yourself, or have you had to kind of learn how to do that?
I would say they're both tough to a degree, because, like I said, with vulnerability with others, it all depends on who you trust, because a lot of times, unfortunately, people use that against us whenever you're at odds with the person somehow, some way. And it was, I would say, even more tougher to be vulnerable to myself, because, being left alone when the lights are out and it's just you, in bed, you're left by yourself. And that's probably the scariest feeling in the world, being left alone with who you really are, or what's really right here in the mind. You can do whatever you want to do throughout the day to repress it, keep yourself busy as much as you can, but at the end of the day, you have to go to sleep. That's the most vulnerable, quiet time in the world, when it's just you. And that's when whatever you suppressed or whatever you were trying to, you know, block out based on how busy your day was, it's going to come to surface. And that's when you really going to have to deal with it. A lot of nights of just laying in bed, looking up at the ceiling for 7, 8 hours, then the alarm goes off because you're throwing fisticuffs with the mind. Sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's a battle. And at the end of the day, for me, it's like, we gonna throw hands and fight, me and this mind, until someone comes out as a winner. And 10 times out of 10, I usually win because I figure some kind of avenue out to where it works out better.
Thank you. Yeah, that battle itself is huge. Kennedy says, salute to you for your accomplishments. I was your age again, and you're on the right path. Thank you. And yeah, because I think like that battle with ourselves is really complicated. I see Mr. Jones is in the chat. Mr. Jones 169. Good evening. Salute. We have a lot of our Ranters family showing up. Thank you. Appreciate it. And so we're learning about Nate McCoy, who, in addition to many of the things we talked about, you are the president of Silence Kills. And we talked a little bit about what Silence Kills is, but tell me a little bit more about what brought you to this organization, this nonprofit, which, as you said, most of the spaces you go into is mostly women. So being a man, you came into this. Tell me a little bit about that story of coming into Silence Kills, when you met Shaharia, and then maybe as a man, what have you noticed in being a part of this nonprofit? And also, if you wouldn't mind telling us what Silence Kills is, just so that everybody knows. Sorry.
So I met Shaharia 2017 at an event that my campus was on when I worked at the campus at the time. They was on some kind of panel discussion for Domestic Violence Awareness Month. Yeah. And so I had missed the event. Oh no, not this. This was a while ago. But that was the conference. But I had missed the event because I had class, and so when I got there, everyone was just wrapping up. And so out of nowhere, this tall person with purple dreads came up to me and started talking to me. And I'm from a Southwest, Southeast DC, and we don't take too kind of people just walking up to us, just striking a conversation. Like, who are you? Like, why are you? What do you want? And so she introduced herself, told me what she was all about and everything. And even still, for me, it's just like, okay, that's nice. I'm gonna go over to these professionals now. And so in the midst of me, walking over and trying to do my own thing, she says, I'm trying to start a nonprofit. Would you be interested? Quite naturally, people come up to me all the time with their ideas, and my usual comeback is, okay, so do it. And she said, okay, let's exchange numbers. Absolutely not. Was my first response. I don't give my number out. And I'm probably one of the few that if a woman were to walk up to me right now and says, can I have your phone number? I was absolutely not. There's no what's it called? There's no free lunch here. No, you got to earn that. But something just told me, give her your number, exchange numbers. Don't know what it was. So we did. I still waited about 2 or 3 weeks to even contact her. But one day, about around 1:30 in the morning, it was early hours of the morning, I contacted her and she actually picked up. First response was like, wait, why are you up so late? And she says, I was writing, doing something. My thoughts tend to run wild at night. I'm like, oh, you too? Then, yeah, I guess here we are. Everything, we just started meeting more and more regularly. The name Silence Kills, me and her actually came up with together. We were sitting in my living room in one of our planning meetings. At this point, the original set of people that we thought would be a part of what we're trying to do, they had left, and it was just down to me, her, and her significant other. We were just sitting there, just scribbling on note legal pads and whatnot. And so somehow, some way, we just came up with Silence Kills. Silence Kills. I think I actually still have the legal pad that I wrote it down on too. When I just said, "How about call it Silence Kills?" And she, oh shit, and I said, "Yeah." You know, it was one of the things where it's like, that could probably work. And after that, we started doing events at local elementary schools, pretty much paint the unspoken events where people would come in, paint their hearts out. I even had one of my now fraternity members come in and lead an art demonstration where he led a demonstration of drawing eyes, because eyes are the windows to the soul. And then it just elevated more and more to where we started doing podcasts with Logic. And then lo and behold, the Super Bowl, as you can see here, Science Kills Conference, where she's performing and doing stuff along with great talented artists that's within the DC metropolitan area. And we're looking to do it again, bigger and better. So in hindsight, everything, it became what it was. If you had asked me years ago, would you see the organization getting to a point where we're actually getting grant money? I would have said no, because there's a vice president, Portia Batts, right there in that clip, another dynamic person.
Yeah.
But we've come a long way from being a bunch of people that was reading how to run a nonprofit for dummies books, how to do everything ourselves, still learning, because even though my minor was nonprofit management in college, I was an IT major but nonprofit management minor, I had to learn just as much as she did, because I still essentially know jack squat. But I'm getting better at it, and that's all you can do when you have an organization that started from the ground up. You can only get better. You only get worse if you're not doing anything at all. You got to be completely stagnant to be terrible. And luckily for us, we're never not doing something. Even in days where it seems quiet, we're doing something. Whether it's looking up different grants, whether it's even being the billboard for it. It's not a place where I don't go to now. With people, where they say, "Hey, Nate, what's going on? What's Silence Kills? What's that all about?" I've even had 2 friends, Tyron included, that have sent me their resumes because they want to be a part of what we've done. So we're making a difference. At least I know I am. I'm making a difference with this. I'm using this to try to elevate others. Anyone that's actually been a part of it and has reached out to me and has been involved in it, they've actually been able to use that to put that on their resume, and their careers have taken off. They're doing better things. So to be able to know that I had somewhat of an impact, and through this organization have that impact where I can help people better their lives, that's a beautiful thing. It's a great thing.
That is a beautiful thing. So progress and community and connections, right? And helping people to heal is what it is. So Silence Kills is a nonprofit that specifically works with individuals who have been exposed to domestic abuse, and it uses art. So I know that you talked about it a little bit, but I just want to clarify for our audience who doesn't know about Silence Kills that it really is art therapy, right? So part of it is I would going back to the title, like tell me more about the name itself, Silence Kills. You said that you came up with it and that you came up with it together, but what does it represent for you? Shaharia spoke a little bit about it, but I'm wondering for you what it meant.
So I'll be upfront because Madam CEO Shaharia and Madam Vice President Portia Batts, they're my media dynamos. Shout out to both of them. Love you both with everything right here. And I don't say that often, so take that with you. They're very elegant and very good at, explaining things and explaining what the organization is. I am too, but I'm not the wordsmith like them, like they are. So to make it simple, and I give this definition to everyone because I'm a firm believer in elevator pitches, 30 seconds or less. Silence kills is what the name says by itself. If you're silent, you might as well be guilty of murdering someone, because whenever you're silent, whenever you choose to turn a blind eye to something like that, you're just as guilty subconsciously. I've by not being silent would cause me to lose my oldest brother to where I'm dead to him. I can't go to certain places in the city that I know he'll be at because I'll be dead. He'll murder me because I wouldn't let him assault a relative and her newborn baby. You can't be silent about stuff like this. You gotta be able to take a risk in your life at some point when it comes to what's right and what's wrong. And I know right and wrong is a broad thing because everyone tries to define what's good and what's evil, but I don't see things with my heart or my head. I see with my eyes. You can't lie with your eyes see. And so I'll say for me is the definition of what the organization is all in the title. Silence kills. When you're silent, it kills. It's murder. As we have a saying in Iota Fate, is silence is violence. Is never it's never good to be quiet on things that you know that's not right. That's happening in front of you. And it doesn't even necessarily have to happen in front of you because a lot of times in my work with FEMA, the nonprofit, and even in IOTA, no one really rings the doorbell or bangs the drum until it's actually happening to them personally. Essentially, I could say, hell, I would say even for America as a country itself, they don't bang the door or anything until it happens to them. Case in point, the pandemic. It's something that you knew about 2019, but you didn't do nothing about it until people started dropping like flies. So essentially, you were silenced, and that caused a lot of life-altering things to happen all across the planet, not just in the country, but the whole planet at a standstill because of that. So, my lesson that I learned is it's never good to be negligent to things, and if you see with your eyes, always call it out, but also know that there's also a risk. There's consequences for the wrong thing and consequences for the right thing, and I've been through it all. Got scars to prove it. I've got a missing knuckle on this finger, on this hand right here. And I've even 2 years ago I was held out at gunpoint in my own complex. If someone were to look out the window, they could see the whole thing. So I've been through a lot of stuff several times. But it's the consequences that I'm willing to accept because, like I said, when you see with your eyes, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. If it don't look right, do something. I'm not the best. I'm not the best fighter in the world, but I'm willing to put my life on the line if need be. Because there's just a lot of things I won't stand for. There's a lot of stuff I let slide even as a kid because, you're a 7, 8-year-old kid. What can you do? I've seen both my brothers beat up their significant others, 2x4s and all that stuff. And I was a kid, couldn't really do much. But, for me, it was a badge of honor to stop him because now it's like, you're not about to do that while I'm here. I can risk losing someone never speaking to me or threatening me. Get threatened almost every day. Every day we lose somebody, but also every day we gain 2, 3, or more people. So for me, losing him gained me thousands of brown and gold brothers worldwide, essentially. So
wow, I think clearly you had a moment where you said you were silent when you were younger, but as soon as you found your voice, and you've used it as your power. So silence is violence, but voice is power, right? In that you were able to
voice is power, but
things.
Voice is power, but the greatest thing of all is actions, which speak louder than anything. As long as you have 2 working hands, 2 working legs, you can do anything. Doesn't matter how big or strong someone is. Doesn't matter what's thrown your way. As long as you got 2 working hands, 2 working legs, 2 working eyes, even though my eyes are crap, 2 working eyes, you could do anything. And that's the end all be all for me. You can do anything.
Thanks.
That's why I can give this interview, not show a shred of, I'm getting choked up and nothing like that. I'm like, no, everything happened for a reason. I'm still here. I can talk about this freely. I'm not afraid of anything. And it took a while to get to that point. But if I had to, I'd go through it all again because I never knew what I'd be able to take or what my limit could be or how, I guess everyone likes to use the word now, tough I could be.
So is toughness always strength, though, or is toughness sometimes outside of that?
I feel like it's something that gets thrown into a box and minimalized too many times because even for me, it may sound good, saying, stuff like this, actions speak louder than words, but most of the time, it doesn't even get to that point for me. Thank goodness. Toughness is, knowing that no matter what, you can, even if someone's getting, I guess, rowdy with you, is to be having the calmness to know that we don't have to get to that point because right now you're just yelling. When you're yelling, sometimes you don't make any sense. Just bring it down a notch, then talk. Or as I, tell the missus, because me and her collectively just both lost a friend who was quite delusional. As I always told her, I'm like, you can get upset about it, but for me, it's the same thing as always with her. You can come talk to me when you got some sense. Whenever you make sense, and you're not on a, one of those quote unquote manic depressive episodes that I really think is fake, that you're just doing it for attention. Whenever you're off of that, then you come talk to me. But I'm not gonna play that game of 1 minute you're my friend, next minute you're not, 1 minute you no, 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 no. We're not about to do all that. No. You can go because there's tons of other people that want to be in my company and you're just flip flopping. So yeah, for me, I would say toughness is a lot more different. Toughness is a mature standpoint. It's a state of maturity, I guess. I was always mature for my age, but I guess even at 31, I guess you can call me a grandpa or something because I'm like, I don't. For me, for someone to even, say they're tough, I even probably got to call myself out on this one. But it's like, it's really not even something that you need to declare or say. Honestly, I think it's a state of mind. It's a state of maturity.
No, I think the more people who say they're tough, it's not toughness, right? And it sounds like it's tough to also be vulnerable. That's what I was thinking too, Ja. Thanks for sharing that, right? Like this idea, and there's a lot of logic in toughness to you. Like that, what you described was logic and like being sensible and really thinking things through and looking at the big picture, right?
For me, I have to be logical. Because one, that's my career, that's my job. If I'm not, I get fired. I have to literally 14 hours a day take whatever someone gives me, from the curse outs to being called. We're free to say words right on the show, right?
You could say whatever you want. Yes.
From being called a nigger, from being called, you don't look nothing like your brothers. Your mother should have aborted you. To all kind of things, but I have to at all times be just like this because one, I'm not gonna let no one drag me down to your level. If you want something out of me, you're gonna have to come a little bit more correct. But two, also, it's, yeah, I would say it's something that I have to be. It's more so what I have to be. Does that mean that I necessarily want to be? Sometimes no, because I'm a human being, and sometimes I want to throw hands too and want to get downright ignorant and take them to where I come from. But for me, it's easier and it's always worked better for me to be. I'm a problem solver. I'm a thinker. I'm a person that's very analytical because that's my strength. That's what I have to be. That's what I have to do. But also, I know that just for me, just my presence alone, that could be enough right there within itself. I'm not a big guy, but when you cast a big shadow, when you have help, or when you just have a calmness about you to where like nothing's going to happen while I'm here, everything's fine. Shahari will tell you herself. Since I came into the picture, she's never had not one instant of someone trying to attack her or harass her or anything. She never has any problems when I'm here. So that tells you a lot in itself, right there. And
And Tyron says, always good to have many tools in the toolbox. Yeah.
Speaking of someone in my camp, Tyron Jenkins, he's been one of my most loyal, most honest, true friends I've had since BBC days. He's another one that's very analytical and smart. Sharp guy, has a great podcast of his own, Thoughts by Ty. Follow him.
Oh, nice.
Yes, Tyron, I'm putting you out there on live TV.
That's a good plug. That's a good plug.
That's another thing I do a lot. I'm always going to put people over me and what they got going on because I guess we're all extensions of each other. Tyrone and me are extensions of each other. Shar is an extension of me. My missus is an extension of me. Iota's an extension of me. FEMA. Silence kills because me and Shar created and birthed that. So yeah, I guess I have to always be on my best behavior because it's a lot of eyes on me watching. Probably even more so now than ever before that I'm with the world famous brown girl interrupting.
I don't know about that. World famous. Ranters Union famous, maybe, like, on this tiny YouTube channel. I'll
Hey,
take that. But
hey,
um,
viewers
and
around the world. I thought she was from LA. Ain't that something? I thought she was from LA and lived
you
there.
did. Yeah, you thought I lived in LA. There was something else. I know. Yeah, no, and that I was doing my podcast for much longer than I have been. But I appreciate that. And and connecting back to to these ideas that you're laying out in terms of how you're thinking about your own experiences and how they've helped you. I want to kind of I want to take it back because you've mentioned it a lot, and I'm gonna let you go as deep as you want, but just thinking about, it sounds like your families have a really big impact on some of the things that you've experienced, and I would imagine, you shared some really hurtful and harmful moments with them, but I'm sure that there have also been some good ones, right? Family is complicated. We don't choose them, right? But they are a family. But I want to know more about, uh, you know, from who you were as a child in your family and the things you experienced to now the man that you are and the work that you do. Um, what do you think is different about you? What have you learned? Like, how have you changed to be the man that you are now, and how is that different from the boy you once were?
I would say the main difference, honestly, is responsibilities. Having the many responsibilities that I have is obviously way different than one of us when I was a kid, because when I was the youngest. So there was no one after me. So I was the youngest child. There wasn't no sense of like, taking care of a little brother or sister for me. So I guess in the hindsight, it can lead to things that even still that I hear to this day about, and if the missus is home, she's probably going to comment, but, the selfish label of being selfish, it seems like anytime I would do something for myself, still to this day, I get the selfish label thrown at me. As I should have told this to Shaharia, but she probably will hear this now. It seems like everyone's always upset whenever we're doing stuff for ourselves. We never get, despite no two people I've ever seen outside of myself or her, that's like anytime we try to do something for ourselves, we always get the selfish label thrown at us. Like, we do so much for everyone else, why can't we do something for ourselves? Number for me probably be the whole lazy title. I heard that a lot growing up. Lazy, selfish, irresponsible. And I guess in hindsight, without even having to think about it, it probably what fueled me a lot to become the person I am, because I'm like, I'm the furthest from selfish or lazy or irresponsible. If anything, I've always been responsible. You probably just never want to give me my credit or never seen me in situations where I had to be, because for the most part, I still am a private person as I was as a kid. As a kid, we ain't got no right to privacy. What you being private for? You got nothing.
Yeah.
But that's just, I guess I was just born that way. But I would say nowadays is the responsibilities I have is what keeps me afloat. It's what keeps me going. It's what keeps me honest. It's what keeps me being clean no matter what in business. Because when you have responsibilities, people are watching you, and half the time it's so they can watch you fail. I
That's
cannot fail because I have the best team in the world, and we all hold each other accountable to the point to where we can't fail.
mm. That's true, though, right? I think that not everybody is watching you for good. I'm sure that's the same thing for all of us. I can imagine there's some brown girl haters out there. I hope not, but I'm sure there are. Actually, I know some very active ones. But I would say, I think it sounds like almost like what you said and how you're talking about how you take on responsibility now is that you claimed your story back, right? Whatever the story was that people had of you that they created about those words, lazy, selfish, irresponsible, right? That's not who you are, and you knew that, and you found that space. I don't want to say your voice, because we always have our voice, but we find the space sometimes, right, to actually have that voice be audible and for others to hear it. And then for something like Tyron mentioned, right, when you do something with it, right, like when you have an action, which it sounds like really that's what you've been doing through all the work that you've been doing. So just as a final thought, as we're closing out the show,
You should probably be the next guest to your show too. He's all active on the chat. You should be the next guest.
oh, Tyrone. Well, he put his info. Thank you. I appreciate that, sir.
He's an even better story interview than me, for sure. Definitely.
Well, hopefully Tyrone put his information in the chat for sure. And so we are able to you can go check out his website. And salute to all of our Ranchers fam. I think I saw some more folks in here. I think I saw Kick in the Door came in. Salute. Welcome. Peace to the Ranchers, and salute to bro. Thank you, J58 from Kick in the Door show. Appreciate it. And so as final thoughts for our audience, for those watching us in the rebroadcast, Nate, just, if you were to give some messages to young boys who are going through some of the things that you've experienced in your life, right? Like similar things, similar problems with family, bullying themselves, or just struggling, to find their own identity in some spaces. Like, what would be your advice for these young men to help them kind of walk away with, what has helped you to continue to find your power and then lead with love?
Think. Always use your head. See with your eyes. Forget what the media, forget what society, forget what neighborhood you're in. None of that stuff matters. You have a dream, you have a vision, do it. If it's being a doctor or even being a basketball player or a rapper, do it. If it's your dream, if it's your goal, do it. Always have a plan, and don't let no one shame you or criticize you for your plan, because they had a plan too and probably had to settle for the life they have. If we tell women all the time and black women all the time to not settle and always shoot for the stars, be high maintenance, hey, fellas, be the same for yourself, because people see that. Whoever you're going to end up having a family with will see that, and no one wants a man that's not confident, doesn't have a plan or vision, or hasn't set that plan and vision into motion already. So be yourself, be great, maximize yourself to the fullest potential, because I want it to happen quicker for you than it did for me.
Thank you. And those are wise words and important words to think about as well. So thank you so much. And yeah, be yourselves. Those are important things. I think not every person, even adults, right, are able to do that. So authenticity, being ourselves, being vulnerable, knowing vulnerability is a strength is huge. Thanks so much, Nate, for coming on and for sharing your story.
Just a shout out, Mia Golston, love you, darling. Madam CEO, Shaharia Johnson, love you. Madam Vice President, Portia Batts, love you. Iota Phi Theta, ow. Silence Kills, we in it for the long haul. FEMA, keep signing my checks. Tyrone, anyone else that's listening, love y'all dearly. Without y'all, there is no me. Heck, for Brown Girl even having me on the show, even to you too. Without you, there's no me. Without the people, there's no me. I'm going to keep working hard, keep busting my ass for you. It's 7 days a week, 14 hours a day over here with me. And yes, it's Mr. President all day long.
Mr. President, which is a beautiful thing. And thank you so much. And thank you to everybody for joining us tonight, for being here. And I am so glad that you were able to stay with us on Pain to Power Leading with Love. Make sure that you go check out all of the different links connected and find out more about Silence Kills and the beautiful organization, as well as go check out episode 12 of Pain to Power Leading with Love, where I interviewed Shaharia. And please make sure to join us next Sunday July 25th. I might have my date wrong, but it is definitely next Sunday. And at 9 o'clock, where I will have the creator of Flow Tactics, Andrew, that is going to come and join us. And he's going to talk about some of his story of pain to power and how he's leading with love through some dynamic ways of using our bodies and our minds and healing ourselves. So please come join me next week at 9 o'clock on this channel, Brown Girl Interrupting, on the iRant Network, on Better Minds Interrupting, and blessings. Make sure that you continue to see vulnerability as strength and you find your space and your power to be able to share your vulnerability and build that community, and come join and build community with us every Sunday. Peace and have a great night. Thanks, Nate.
Thank you.